So I recorded a drum rhythm off a record. In fact, it's my brother playing the drums. And I want to loop that. Now, here is my recording that I made. You can see all the sort of hiss and the pops and the crackle of the record before the drums start. There it is. Now, I need to edit out where that drum beat starts. So I'm going to go in very, very high zoom level. Now, I don't want to cut right at the start. I'm going to cut something like there. It's still quite a short distance, so if I go from here and play that back, it pretty much starts straight away. So I also then want to find the end of that drum beat. And it's there. So I've got to try and filter out, I've got to try and find where the best point to cut that drum beat is. I think it's going to be somewhere around there. Now when you cut on Logic or any other program, there is going to be a finite control over where you can split this. So I'm going to try there and get rid of that. Now, the easiest way to start with, once you've done your fine cutting and pasting, is to loop what you've got and see if the loop makes sense. So I'm just going to go back to just before the end of the drum loop there. Okay, timing wise, it's there, but does it make sense in sonic terms? Sure, maybe I could just loop the first half. After all, it is quite a long break, so we could actually do that. So it's somewhere about there. I'm going to cut there, see what happens. So now I'm going to loop that and see whether the loop makes sense. This is the trouble with drum loops. When you're lifting them off an old record, there's that famous Kool and the Gang one from when they did their live album. And you can sort of notice the fact that it's a loop. But, you know, it's electronic music. It's making something out of something else. That makes more sense to me. Even though rhythmically it might actually not be entirely satisfactory, it still makes sense. It's almost as if it's slightly sluggish to start off with, but it didn't do it when I repeated with the full drum rhythm, so perhaps the end of it was slightly slower and it sped up towards the middle. But for my money at the moment, that's working quite nicely. Now, in order to put it into a project, you can either, there are plugins that will allow you to there are plugins that will allow you to actually do this, to be able to tap a tempo. Not always useful though. Because it can give you pretty duff information. So the best thing to do here is to just go back to the beginning. I'll just switch the snap to the smallest possible terms. There we go. So that is right at the start. I'll just get that so that it meets up right with the first bit of the bar. There we go. So first of all, we've got to measure the length of the loop. Now, it's just under 2 bars. So we're almost right in terms of the tempo matching. So if it's... we're about 120 beats per minute because it's 2 bars, 2-bar drum group, and it is actually pretty much fitting in my 2 bars at 120, but it's not quite. If we go to bar 3 and zoom around bar 3, it's actually slightly faster. Now, assuming you've put your break at the beginning, right at the beginning, you can vary the tempo until you can actually get the thing to read a correct figure. So 122, it's closer to that. So I'm just going to go down in decimal terms now from 122 until I find something that's vaguely right. 121.76. Whoa, okay. You're not going to get it more accurate than that. We are 2 decimal places with our tempo. So now we've got that, it means that if we put the click on, the length is a tempo of 121.76, but it certainly varies in speed throughout. Now that's but at least it allows you in the computer to actually be working in terms of bars. The beats aren't necessarily going to be where they say they are, and that is a problem when you're dealing with a raw file from a record where there was no click track on the original. So that's as close as I'll get it, but it means that I can drag stuff in terms of bars and actually make it work and be able to go to bar 16 from backing vocals and to be able to work in those terms. So there is your drum beat and tempo matching.